Hi everybody, this is Miss Lauren. Sorry for the boring backdrop, but I have to film this at home, so this is the best I can do. Welcome to another episode of Frustrated Book Purists. Today we are going to be talking about the Lorax. And before I get started on the subject, we need to address the elephant in the room. And no, it isn't Horton. For those who may not yet be aware, Dr. Seuss Enterprises has decided to cease republishing 6 of its books due to harmful portrayals of African and Asian people. This decision has understandably caused a lot of controversy, with many people applauding it for taking a stand against racism and being more respectful of people, and many others expressing concerns about censorship. I am not here to state my opinion on the matter, and if I did, it would be my own and not the official position of the Rehoboth Beach Public Library. I will simply say that as a business, Dr. Seuss Enterprises has the right to decide whether or not to continue publishing books from their own collection, and that you, as a reader, maintain the right to decide which books you read. Now, Miss Sarah and I tend to plan these episodes of Frustrated Book Purists several months in advance. I had this idea last year. I thought it would be good for March because Dr. Seuss's birthday, and I have opinions on the Lorax. Um, and we discussed when all this came to light, we talked about whether to pick a different book or movie, but we didn't think it would be a good idea to sidestep the issue. And The Lorax is not one of the books being criticized for harmful stereotypes. So for the rest of the video, I will stick to talking solely about the book, the 2012 movie adaptation by Illumination Entertainment, and whether the movie serves as an effective adaptation of the book and its message. If you want to know more about the controversy surrounding Seuss Enterprises and the American Library Association's position, I have included some links in the description below. Okay, on to the Lorax. Okay, so right off the bat, one of the things that makes this video a little different from the other ones that we've done is that the Lorax, the movie, is based off of a picture book by Dr. Seuss. It's not based off of like a 300-page novel. So whereas with other movies, the filmmakers had to decide what to cut, with this movie and this book, they had to decide what to add. The Lorax, you probably have read it, but if you haven't, I'll just give a quick synopsis. It's a simple story about a businessman named the Onceler who comes up with this product called a thneed that is made out of the tufts from truffula trees. And initially, he just cuts down one tree, makes a thneed. It turns into a big success. So he keeps cutting down more and more trees, and gradually the animals in the environment, they have to move away because there's no more food for them, and the smog from the factory is making it hard to breathe. He's dumping the waste into the streams, and all the while there's this little creature called the Lorax who keeps coming back to him and saying, I speak for the trees, you can't keep doing this, this is hurting the environment. And the Onceler just ignores him until the last tree falls, and then there's no more needs. His business is ruined, the environment is ruined, and he's left to just stew in his own deep regret over what he did. And it ends with him passing the last seed of the truffula tree to a boy who's been listening to his story, and he encourages the boy to plant the seed and try to bring back the forest. And he ends it with, unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. I really like this book. I think it has a very effective message about taking care of our planet. And the only thing that kind of bugged me about it when I first read it, and it wasn't anything like, it's sort of like I understood what the point was, but I just really wanted to know what happened next. I wanted to know, like, does it work? Does the boy plant the seed? Does the forest come back? Do the barbaloos come back? Do the swami swans and the hummingbird fish, like, do they all come back? Does the Lorax come back? I want everything to be happy. And the book doesn't tell you. It just kind of leaves you on that slightly hopeful note, but you don't know if things are going to get better. And so watching the movie, I was kind of like, it does end on a more definitive note. It does tell you what's going to happen next, but is that a good thing? Well, this was very much a case of be careful what you wish for. The movie does have does contain a lot of the plot with the Onceler, but it starts out with a boy named Ted who lives in Needville, and everything there is plastic and synthetic and fake. They have to buy fresh air from this guy named Aloysius O'Hare that kind of runs the town, and because there's no trees and they can't produce fresh air. And Ted has a crush on the girl next door. She, it turns out, is really interested in trees and says she would give anything to see a real living tree. So Ted, thinking, oh, I really want to impress this girl, I want her to like me, I'm going to go find out what happened to the trees. And he finds the Onceler, and the Onceler starts telling his story. And one of the key differences between the movie and the book is the Onceler doesn't tell his story all at once. He'll get to a certain point, and he's like, okay, I'm tired, I'm done. Come back the next day. And Ted's like, what? But yeah, so Ted keeps going back and forth, and during those interruptions with the Onceler story, he runs into problems with Aloysius O'Hare, who doesn't want trees coming back because if trees come back, then he can't sell fresh air anymore. So that's the plot of the movie. And, it's one of the things that I found very noticeable rewatching the movie and rereading the book is that the tone is really different. And I have found that I can forgive certain changes to an adaptation as long as it keeps to the spirit and the tone of the original work. And this really doesn't. If I'm going to open up to the first couple of pages of the Lorax, you can see that it's really barren and dark. And throughout the book, even when it's happy, when the environments look is great and the Onceler is selling his Sneed, there's very much a melancholy feel throughout the book about this guy that really made a huge mistake and regrets it and wants to make things better again. The movie is a lot more cheerful and colorful. The only exception is when Ted goes to the Onceler's house. It's suitably dark and dreary there. But, there's these big musical numbers, and there's a lot of snarky one-liners and slapstick, and the bad guy Aloysius O'Hare is very cartoony, and that's not always necessarily a bad thing, but it is here. Like, I feel like they just missed the point of the book. There's an unambiguous happy ending. Uh, People kind of come to see Ted's point of view like astonishingly fast. Like not in a what I feel the book just feel for a book that's about truffula trees and a Lorax and barbaloots and all that it feels a lot more realistic to me, and the movie not so much. I'll get into why, but first I do want to talk about the things that I did like about the movie. So, for starters, I will say this for the people who made the movie. Watching it, I felt like I could understand why they made the choices that they did, even if I didn't always like them a lot. And unlike if you've seen the Frustrated Book Purists video I did with Artemis Fowl, I was just like, why did you wreck a perfectly good script? I could see why, for example, why we get to see the Onceler's face. We don't get to see it in the book. And it's kind of creepy in the book because it's like the Onceler could be anybody. But I get for like an hour and a half movie, you want to be able to show who we're supposed to be looking at, so we can, root for him and stuff and feel bad when things go wrong for him. And I also understand, you know, even if I think the whole stuff with Ted and Audrey is a little cliched, I get what they were going for there with Ted not really caring about trees at first and then learning to care about them after hearing the Onceler story. And there is a boy in the book who's listening to the story, so I get that they wanted to like give him a character and a personality and kind of strengthen that arc and everything. So I get that. Um, and despite what I just said about snarky one-liners and how I didn't really like that, I did like the budding friendship between the Onceler and Ted that grows throughout the movie. There's like nice little moments, like during the flashback, the Onceler mentions that he liked marshmallows, and that's how he got the forest creatures to befriend him. So at one point in the movie, Ted's going back to visit him, and he brings a bag of marshmallows for the Onceler, and I thought that was really nice. Um, I also like that the Onceler is shown bonding with the cute forest animals at first, because throughout the book he says that he didn't mean for things to go wrong, and he did feel sad when he saw them leaving, but at the same time kind of felt like, well, business is business. I gotta keep this going, so too bad. So that kind of seeing him like making friends with the little bears and everything it kind of strengthens that idea that he really did like the forest and didn't want things to go as bad as they did. I also like there is a part in the movie when the Onceler is telling the story where he actually does promise the Lorax and the forest creatures, I won't cut down any more trees. And he harvests the tufts, and he just picks the tufts off the trees instead of cutting the whole thing down. But then his family convinces him, oh no, but it would be so much faster for you if you cut down the trees. So he goes back on his promise. And I think it could have been stronger if he'd hesitated a little more and kind of argued with his family about it. And then, as he saw that, yes, this is bringing in more money for me in the short term, that he did give in and go back on his promise. In the movie, it kind of feels more like he's letting his mom bully him than he's actually culpable for it. But I do like the idea there. I like that he really did try it first and then let greed kind of take over and ruin the forest. I think they really had something there, and like the song where he's going from good to like full on bad. How bad can I be? It's a very quick sudden turn from well-intentioned guy to full-on villain, so it's not great as far as progressing the story goes. But I will admit it is good. Like it is very catchy, and I will get if I listen to it, I get it stuck in my head all day. So there's that. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. Now to get into the frustrated part. All right, so this lovely film is adapting a picture book, and it is an hour and 35 minutes long. And yet, in that hour and 35 minutes, they could not bother to explain why the Onceler cutting down the trees is bad, apart from the stuff with the trees provide the air they breathe. The Lorax actually explains to the Onceler throughout the book, hey, you're cutting down trees, the Barbaloots don't have any more food, they have to leave. Hey, this smog is making it really hard for the birds to breathe, they have to leave. Hey, your waste is pouring into the streams, and now the fish can't breathe, and they have to leave. Oh, the movie, like, it's just the Lorax being like, no, don't cut down trees, this is bad. And the Onceler being like, no, it's not. And they have this whole slapstick routine where the Lorax is trying to get the Onceler to leave, and he won't leave, and like trying to take his tent down and putting his bed in the water, and there's this whole chase scene where the Onceler's about to go down a waterfall. Like, and the most that ever happens is after the bed in the water scene, when the Onceler's understandably very upset about what just happened. All the Lorax really says is, look, the trees, we need the trees to live, or like they're a part of our environment, and with you cutting them down, we have a big problem here. He doesn't explain what the big problem is, just that it's going to be a big problem, to the point that I almost feel sorry for the Onceler, like more than I'm supposed to feel sorry for him, because like of course he's going to think there's nothing wrong with what he's doing if you don't explain to him why what he's doing is wrong. And it's like, yeah, they just, it's completely missing the point of the book. And like, yeah, during the song How Bad Can I Be, you do see smoke in the air, you see gunk going into the streams, and you see the animals looking upset and hungry. But the Onceler isn't being told like what's happening, he's just ignoring it. And like the Lorax had ample opportunity in the beginning to explain that stuff to him and just didn't. Uh, and and then the animals don't leave one by one as the environment becomes less and less habitable to them. They leave all at once. So they leave all at once after the last tree falls and the Onceler's family has left him again and he's all alone. So it comes off less like you destroy this ecosystem, you destroy this environment, and now the animals have to leave, and more like, oh, you try to impress your family, you you went in with the wrong crowd, you let fame get to your head, and now your friends are really disappointed in you. Like they're all looking very sad and they're shaking their heads at the Onceler and just walking away. Even his donkey, who should not have really been as affected by all this, he leaves too. They're all so ashamed of him. He's like, no, no, guys, come back, guys. Like, don't you still like me? No. And the Lorax just leaves, and it's very sad. And it's like, no, that the message of the book wasn't don't don't let popularity get to your head. The message of the book was don't let your business practices ruin the environment. And it's just, yeah, that was completely missing the point of the book. And another thing I don't really like, I this is gonna sound nitpicky for a children's movie based off of a children's book, but the way they expanded the story with the world building and everything, it left a lot to be desired. The movie starts out with this big opening number about Thneedville, and the people are all singing about how it's great and they love it. They love Thneedville. Their lives are awesome. Their town is plastic, but they like that. They're proud of that, and there is a kind of a snarky undertone to it with them singing about we don't know where the chemicals go or the waste, and we're fine with that. But it does kind of beg the question, like, why do they want to change things? Like, you can see how it's not necessarily great, but they seem happy, and there's no real indication, and there's also no indication of how their lives are better without trees or how their lives could be improved by trees beyond like, oh, like we shouldn't have to pay for air. Like we shouldn't have to pay this Aloysius O'Hare guy. Let's plant a tree so it's all better. Like you can see how the lack of trees has benefited O'Hare because now he can sell air to people and make a ton of money. Watching this movie, I kept thinking back to this video game that I've been playing recently, Final Fantasy VII Remake, which it almost feels like the city of Midgar that the characters are in, kind of feels like what Thneedville is supposed to be. I wouldn't say based off of, but they're similar in the sense that Midgar is this high-tech city and it's run by this evil company. Uh, Instead of selling fresh air to people, they are sucking up the energy from the planet, the lifeblood of the planet is called Mako energy, and they're converting it into electricity, which people use the way we use electricity. And the main characters realize that this is killing the planet, it's not sustainable, and the company's got to stop doing this, or eventually the planet's going to die. So they're trying to stop them. But the game keeps showing both why what the company is doing is wrong, but also why the people in Midgar are kind of just going along with it because it provides them with electricity. It does improve the quality of their life in the short term. It's not good for the long term, but in the short term, they like having Mako electricity. And so they're not very sympathetic to the characters' goals. They see the characters as just these awful people trying to disrupt their lives. And you can see how the company's actions have both helped and hurt people. And and then there's a point where one of the leaders of the group, Barrett, tries to get on TV and say, "Listen, like, do you understand the electricity that you're using? It comes from the lifeblood of the planet, and this is killing the planet." And the president of the company kind of laughs. He's like, "They know where it comes from. It's not a big secret. Uh, they just don't care because we provide them with comfort. So why would they want to stop? Why would we want to stop what we're doing?" And in comparison with Sneedville, it's like they try to go that route with the company is evil and there's have this surveillance everywhere and no one is allowed to leave Sneedville. That's what kicks off things with O'Hare when he realizes Ted is leaving the city. Nobody leaves the city, which I find that hard to believe. Like, do the people that live in the city not have other family members that live outside of town? Has nobody ever just thought, you know what, I'd like to move to a different town? Like, nobody's ever done that? How is Ted the first person that wants to leave the city, no matter how great everyone thinks it is? And so what they're doing to the environment is treated as this big secret that nobody knows. And as soon as they know, they're all like, oh no, we have to change our ways. And it's just not it's just not very realistic and it doesn't make a lot of sense when you stop and think about it. There's towards the end, O'Hare tries to convince everybody that trees are bad for them, and all he can really come up with is trees are dirty and they have sap and it's terrible and they attract bugs. Think of the children, and it's pretty weak. Uh, and and yet, I also the way the movie ends. So Ted gets the seed from the Onceler, and he brings the seed back, and he he's able to knock down a portion of the wall so everyone can see the pollution outside their city, and they're like, whoa. And O'Hare's not giving up. He tells one of his workers, like, get rid of that seed or you're fired. And the guy decides, no, I'm going to protect the seed. And we don't really know anything about this guy, and we don't know how that would have impacted him. Like, especially right now during the pandemic, I kind of I sound really cynical right now, but I have a hard time buying into this idea that somebody would just be like, who cares about my job? I'm gonna protect the trees. And everybody just immediately gets on board with Ted's idea, and they're singing about how they want to let the tree grow. Like, let's do this. Let's try this out. And O'Hare tries to bring them back, and he starts singing his own verse, like "Let It Die," and he's like, "Who's with me?" And everyone just glares at him, and this kid's like, "No one," and they're like, "Get out of here!" And I don't know. I just feel like if you're trying to convince kids to care about a message, you don't want to set them up with unrealistic expectations that everyone's going to love what you're trying to do and everyone's going to be right on board with you and that there's going to be no resistance whatsoever. It's just kind of, I feel like it's just setting them up for failure, kind of like you. And here's the thing, the book doesn't do that. The Lorax keeps trying and trying to protect the environment, and the Onceler keeps ignoring him until it's almost too late. So he does meet resistance in the book, and when it ends, it's ambiguous. Like you don't know if Ted's gonna succeed in what he's trying to do. You hope he will. The Onceler hopes he will, but there's no guarantee. And I feel bad talking like this because I am not typically a cynical person. I also don't typically care that much about world building. If it's cool and the movie or the book is fun, I'll get sucked right into it. But I just didn't think the movie wasn't as fun or exciting or interesting enough to keep me invested. So I just kept going back to, but why is it like this? This doesn't make sense. It doesn't capture the tone of the book and it doesn't do a good job of capturing the importance of the environmental message. So aside from the song How Bad Can I Be, which just is so catchy and I will listen to it on repeat when prompted, this movie's just mostly kind of forgettable and meh, compared to the book, which felt a lot more powerful. And it's for me, mostly serves as a case of be careful what you wish for because I did want to see. I was the one thing I was looking forward to in this movie was seeing if they continued after Ted got the seed and you find out what happens after he does that. I was the ending of the movie left me feeling so unsatisfied that I found I actually preferred the book where you don't really know what happens. And that's not to say that I don't love happy endings. I actually prefer them to tragic endings. And we need hope, and that's a good thing. I just thought the book was more powerful overall, and the movie did not capture the message of the book as effectively as it could have, which is a shame because I think it does have grounds for being a good adaptation. Like the book itself, there's a lot to the source material that they could have made a good movie about this. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Love to hear what your thoughts are on the Lorax, whether you liked it or didn't like it, or anything of that nature. And we'll see you next month with another episode of Frustrated Book Purists. Have a good day.